Welcome to another Learning to Read drum lesson. This drum lesson covers the topic of dynamics, and more specifically we'll be going over the markings of piano, forte, crescendo, and the decrescendo. To follow along with this lesson, you're going to need the beat sheet called Dynamics 1, and you can get that at onlinedrummer.com. The term dynamics is sort of a catch-all phrase that we use when we're talking about the volume, whether we're playing soft, loud, or gradually getting louder or gradually getting softer. We call that dynamics. Let's start off by looking at line number 1. The only dynamic markings in line number 1 are the accents, and you should already be familiar with accents if you've been following along with these lessons. And just for a review, the accent means to play that note louder. It's got to stand out above the rest of the notes. So here would be your regular hits, and your accents would stand out. Those are accented. Measure number 1 has 3 accents marked. The first note is not accented. It's a quarter note. The second note is not accented, but the third, fourth, and fifth notes are accented, and that marking above the third, fourth, and fifth note indicates the accent. It looks kind of like an arrow without the line on it. That is an accent mark. It means to play that note louder. Let's get warmed up by playing line number 1 together. Line number 1. 1 and 2 and ready and go. 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. Line number 2 has the dynamic markings of piano and forte. If you look at the first measure, you'll see a little P under the measure. That stands for piano, and piano means to play soft. Measure number 2 has an F under it, and the F stands for forte, and forte means to play loud. Line number 2 is neat because there's a lot of changes in dynamics. The first measure starts out piano, the second measure is forte, then the third is back to piano, and then the fourth is back to forte. So it's soft, loud, soft, loud. The changes in dynamics really make a piece interesting. When you see a dynamic marking such as a piano or a forte, you continue playing at that volume until you reach another marking. If you look at the first measure, it starts out with piano. You're going to continue playing at piano, soft, until the second measure when you have a forte mark. And then you'll continue playing loud until the third measure where you have the piano, and then the same thing for the fourth measure once you hit forte. Let's play line number 2 together. 1, 2, ready and go. And 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4 and. Line number 3 doesn't introduce any new dynamic markings, but the forte that it starts with on measure 1 is continued throughout measure 1, measure 2, and measure 3 until measure 4 when we switch to a piano, so soft. On the repeat, it goes back to forte. So most of the line is at forte except for the last measure, which is at piano. Let's play line number 3 together. 1, 2, ready and go. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Line number 4 introduces a new dynamic marking, and that marking is called a crescendo. Follow along with me. We'll start at measure 1. You are at piano. The P for piano, you're playing soft, all of measure 1. And then you see this interesting marking. It kind of looks like you're going up a hill, and that's called a crescendo. A crescendo means to gradually get louder. So we start off with piano, we're playing soft. Measure 2 comes to this crescendo, and we have to get gradually louder to the forte in measure 3. I'm going to play measure 2 for you to give you an example of what it will sound like. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Notice that it started at piano because that's the dynamic marking that we left off at, and it ended at forte because that was the next marking. Let's play line number 4 together. 1, 2, ready and go. And 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, and 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 4. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, and 2, 3, and 4. Line number 5 introduces another dynamic marking, and it's very closely related to the crescendo. It's called the decrescendo, and I'm sure you can find it by looking at line number 5. It's on measure 3, and this one sort of looks like you're going down a hill, which means to gradually get softer. So if you will, for a minute, let's do a dynamic walk. It starts out at forte, the first measure. The second measure is still at forte. The third measure, we gradually get softer down to the fourth measure, which is at piano. And then on the repeat, it does it all again, starting at forte. Let's play line number 5 together. 1, 2, ready and go. And 1, and 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. And 1, and 2, 3, 4. And 1, and 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. And 1, and 2, 3, 4, and. Before we go on to line number 6, I want to point out the last measure of line number 5. You'll see that it has some accents in it. And a lot of drummers think that accents are always played at a loud volume. But an accent simply means to have it stand out or be louder than the other notes that it's around. So when you're playing at piano, which you are in this last measure, an accent, all it has to do is stand out. Now if you're playing at forte, yes, it's going to have to be louder. But accents aren't always the same volume. You just need to make sure that they stand out above the rest of the notes. Line number 6 puts everything together: the forte, the piano, the crescendo, and the decrescendo. The difference with the crescendos and decrescendos in this line is that they don't take up the whole measure. They only take up half the measure. And that means that you're going to have to crescendo or decrescendo faster. Take a look at measure 2. You start out at forte, because that's the marking on measure 1. So you're at forte. Once count 3 comes, you've got to get from forte to piano in 2 counts. You have 3 and 4 and to get from forte to piano. That's going to be a quick decrescendo. Let me give you an example of that. 3 and 4 and. The same thing goes for measure 4 with the crescendo. You actually have less time to get from piano to forte because there are only 3/8 notes. You have and 4 and. So you go from piano to forte in and 4 and. Let's play line number 6 together. 1, 2, ready and go. And 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. And there you have it. That's an introduction to dynamics. We went over piano, which means to play soft, forte, which means to play loud, crescendo means to gradually get louder, and a decrescendo, which means to gradually get softer. I hope that this lesson has been useful to you. Keep drumming.